Hello and welcome to this Open Farm Sunday webinar, all about planning and logistics. So this is being recorded so that it can be promoted on our website, but we've got lots to discuss. We've got some fabulous speakers with us. So I will share my screen and let's get started. There we go. So today's topic is all about planning and logistics. And I'm joined today by Jessica Madge, who's a key part of the Open Farm Sunday team with me, Zoe Fletcher from Buckminster Farms, and George Streckfield and Philippa, his daughter, from Marchwood Vale Farmers Cluster Group. So a little bit about Open Farm Sunday, just to make sure that everyone's aware. The date this year is the 8th of June, but Open Farm Sunday really is a very, very special experience to be able to connect with your local community and promote all the fantastic work that you're doing, promoting sustainable farming, building trust in British produce. A couple of things, if you've not done Open Farm Sunday before, is that you decide on the size and type of event, whether or not it's a small farm walk through to a larger event. And you can manage visitor numbers through using a ticketing system. And we did a whole webinar on that before. So do look on the website and find the link. And it's free to register and there's lots of free resources to be able to access. So yes, it's all about that wonderful experience of actually getting people onto farm, giving them memorable opportunities to engage with you, to speak with a farmer, to look, listen, smell and share. So here are just a few things that we need to think about logistically for Open Farm Sunday. So when are you going to host your event? What are you going to do? What are those top messages that you want to share with your visitors? Farming with nature is our core theme. You know, where are you going to be able to do that on your farm? The top photograph there is of Tom Mead. He chooses to run an Open Farm Sunday event in the evening, and he does it just for the local villagers. He actually does it on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the run-up to Open Farm Sunday, a 2-hour farm walk in the evening, ending up with a beer and pins. Fantastic, really engages with the local community because his land butts up to a local village. The second photo, Dan, that's me talking about the leaf mark there. And that event takes place on a Saturday, which is why I was helping out. So yeah, lots of opportunity to do something that suits you and your farm. So one of the things to start off with is on the top right, think about, start off with a map. Think about dirty areas, clean areas on the farm. So if you've got livestock, you need to actually have hand washing facilities. If you're doing any work with soil. So yeah, when you're thinking about a route around your farm, it's a great idea to start with that map and think, as I say, think about the dirty areas, the clean areas, where hand washing will be, and think about logistics. Where do you want people to go and where do you want people to avoid going? There may be certain areas that you think from a health and safety perspective, we want people to keep away. I know some farmers that actually don't invite people into the yard. They start off in a field and actually go for a route around the fields rather than actually going into that core yard because they just don't want visitors there. So hand washing, running water, liquid soap, paper towels, love that photograph there. A simple, cheap kitchen sink on a wooden frame with running water and liquid soap and everything that's needed. So whether and how do you want to do it? A farm walk or a tractor and trailer ride. So then the next thing is please register your event. It's really important. As soon as you're registered, you'll start getting emails from us and we'll be communicating with you so that we can, so yes, I would really encourage you to register as soon as you know that you're doing it. If at any point you change your mind, even if you haven't got all the details finally sorted, register your event. If you change your mind, you can cancel at any point. I mentioned ticketing earlier. It's a great way to control visitor numbers. And as I say, there's a whole webinar about that. You need to book helpers, order resources, think about toilets. How many of those do you want? And one of our fabulous webinars was with Andy Basin in the first one. And he mentioned that he actually has, I think, about 7 toilets for 2,000 visitors. So don't think of things like that as a problem. Promotion. Use our send reminder emails to people, to your ticket holders. We've got lots of printed resources that you can download and use for free, as well as digital resources. Food, that's one. Do you want to offer food? Do you not want to offer food? Are you going to have a picnic area? If you're going to offer alcohol, you obviously need to have licenses, and you need to get those in fast because they will take a few weeks to come through. Picnic area needs to be clear from livestock for at least 3 weeks beforehand. Think about parking. How are you going to organise that? I know some people have helpers to organise parking. When I was talking with Eddie Andrews about his Open Farm Sunday event, and I asked how many people help with parking, and he just said, people in Sheffield know how to park a car. So he just offers a field and he lets people, it's a free-for-all. So, you know, it's up to you how you think about hosting your event. Have a wet weather plan. That was my first, I took that photograph of Jake Freestone in front of his trailers there. My first Open Farm Sunday event in 2011, and it absolutely poured with rain from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. But we still got well over 150,000 people out on the farm. But you just need to have a wet weather plan and communicate that. Do more promotion. Think of a countdown to Open Farm Sunday as you're getting closer to the event. Put the gate banner up. That's last year's date. Lovely picture of a young lass who did Open Farm Sunday on the Isle of Wight for the first time last. And then, go on. As you're getting closer to the event, think about risk assessments. We've got a whole webinar on health and safety. There's a risk assessment in the handbook, and we have it as a downloadable Word document. Signs, start putting signs up. One of the things that when it actually comes to the day itself, the comments that we get from visitors just say, it was fantastic, the warm welcome that we got. So a welcome point that's clearly marked. I love this at Hampton Estate Farms. A welcome gazebo, that's the reception, that's the first aid point. And at that desk, they have the video consent form, which we ask everybody to, it's available to download. We have some printed copies. We ask people to display it. We've been informed by lawyers and people that if you have posters up at the start of your event to say that photo and video will be taken at the event, by entering the event, you're consenting to us taking video and photos. And if you and then people will come up to you. I have been at 3 events where people have come up and said, look, I've got an adopted child who can't be photographed, and we have dealt with that. So it does work. Make sure you've got some first aid points. We love to know afterwards how many visitors you've had, so whether or not you have a visitor counter or use stickers. We have lots of Open Farm Sunday stickers, and some people will actually know that there's 24 stickers per sheet. If everybody who comes gets a sticker on them, you'll know by how many sheets that are left, how many people have attended. I love it when people have an event map, whether or not it's a printed one or it's a poster. People can take a photograph and refer to it on their cameras. But key things, look after your volunteers. Please take photographs of your event for you to promote your event next year. But also we love to see the photographs, and high resolution ones we'd love to be able to use in the promotion that we do nationally. So please promote the visitor survey. Thank everyone, but that key thing there is enjoy the day. Don't be overwhelmed. And please fill in the farmer survey. So thank you very much, and thank you to our fabulous sponsors who, without them, we couldn't put on Open Farm Sunday nationally. We absolutely love organising it here at Leaf, Linking Environment and Farming. So next we have 2 farmer presentations, completely different. Zoe, who took part for the first time last year, and George and team who have opened several Open Farm Sunday events. So over to Zoe.
Hi, thank you. So yes, as Annabelle said, it was our first time last year. We didn't sign up till quite late, so I think we only had about 6 weeks to prepare. So it was quite a rush, but it was enjoyable in the end. It was quite difficult to understand about numbers, especially for a first-time event. So we sort of just targeted, not targeted, probably not the right word, but focused on schools. So then we could try and manage how many people probably come from the schools. But I suppose my first initial point is that flexibility is key. So always be flexible with whatever approach you're going to try and go for. Next slide, please, Annabelle. So step one is an absolute must. All planning is based on how many volunteers you had, in my experience. I couldn't grow the event any larger if I didn't have enough people for the amount of stations I had. So try and rally your volunteers early doors, and then you know how far you can sort of stretch the event. I did try and rotate staff around the day, so they wasn't all just stuck on car parking, or so they could vary it as well. But also have enough staff that people weren't just at their stations; they could also go around or see their families and look at some bits and bobs and have a bit of a break. Communication, that's the walkie-talkies, and also pre sort of event catch up on the plans and sites and what's going to be there. And also some people might be a bit more skilled in one area or a bit more organised, so you can sort of focus them and put them in a station that's probably a bit more appropriate for them. But I found that it was easy for me to stay as a central person rather than tying myself up on a station, so that I could be here, there and everywhere, or pick up any queries, or if someone had lost something I can go look elsewhere. And it was probably not great because it was all in my head a little bit. So I will try and be a bit more prepared for that next year. Yeah, so that's key. If you don't have volunteers, you can't do a lot. So again, flexibility with the site. Buckminster Farms is in the village of Buckminster, so it did make sense to have the event in Buckminster. It's quite a nice link, and also quite central to the schools that we had looked at. This is it's not a site I love, it's quite an old site, but it worked because it had hardcore and a good amount of grass parking. So access is quite good, and I could do an in and out route. Our event isn't big enough to upset highways for now, but it's quite nice to have one flow of traffic in and one out rather than mix them up at one entrance. So if you can try and plan that, they would prefer. Highways don't like you to bung up the road, so and there was someone on there just to direct people in, just in case of any incident. And also you need to think on access, whether the fire emergency services could get in. So for us on this site, people could come in the grass field to the right where it says entrance off the Stainby Road, but the emergency services could come in a separate entrance, so it was totally clear for them to get in and out regardless of the size of ambulance, police car or fire engine. And that also minimised interactions with the public, so they wouldn't have to go through the machinery or people walking around the grassland, etc. Also, this site allowed us to have general parking, but also hard standing parking for accessibility reasons. So people could use the emergency services route, but park on hard standing, so it wasn't the day wasn't inaccessible for people. Unfortunately, this site hasn't got toilet facilities or hand washing facilities, which was a problem when it came to then trying to plan things to do with sheep or livestock. But I did order 2 portaloos which had hand sanitizer in them. I did just order disabled toilets because I didn't know, again, how many people we're going to have and how many toilets required. But I thought, well, that covers all bases for everybody again. So there's not just one disabled toilet that's already occupied, or there's too many people and non-disabled people are in there, etc. One thing I will say about that is that you expect to have your own costs. Like, there will be things that you will need to also, unless you're really good at haggling, which I'm not, but expect some costs along the way, but it's the bigger picture of why. And then also things for visitors, so whether they need electricity or water. I had a couple that need both. We did have a barbecue, so we did need sort of electric for some things, but we could do it on a generator just for the ease of a 6 weeks planning. I thought we'll go with this site and we'll analyse it this year. Um, so yeah, think about what suppliers you have, and relate that to the pitch. So I had Trent River Trust that needed some water, so I located them close to the water site rather than sticking them elsewhere. So just think about who needs what. Um, Also, another thing was bins. I hadn't thought about bins too much, so make sure you have enough bins. And also security, sorry, Annabelle, just security on the site. You will be setting up a couple of days before, so you need to make sure that you are happy with all your machinery laying out or, access. Just think about what's going where and whether you can lock it up for a few days. Thank you, Annabelle. Activities. So I racked my brain for ages trying to find activities. On the back of a busy drilling season, we are a large arable farm, with lambing season as well. So there's only so much effort I could put in without sort of drowning in trying to find things to do. I think it's important to remember that people love a free event and they like to just be outside just nattering. So I wouldn't stress yourself too much on the activities that are there. It will be fine. Um, Also, try and pick visitors that bring their own stuff. It's quite amazing how many companies already have these sort of things set up. For example, the Trent Rivers Trust, again, they had a map that was interactive for children to work out how to put like riparian buffers in and where the best location is. So I don't need to worry about what they're doing. They're doing their thing, and that's one less activity for me to worry about. Um, and yeah, just think about your timescale and whether you actually can provide everything you want to do. There's loads of stuff I'd love to do, but I just don't have the time necessarily at this point of the season to, be painting this or carving out that. And it's just to just think what you can do. And once you've got it once, though, think about the winter. You can prepare for the winter and do all those things ahead of the event rather than panicking like I was. Food, we plugged our own lamb as a barbecue, which went down really well. And then from that, we got some meat sales and interests. Don't be afraid to do that. But again, it depends. If you haven't got sort of the location, then people just might come in the morning and they head home for lunch or come after lunch. So don't stress too much if you can't do food. And again, that was a cost to us, to do that. So just think about your budget. Um, Insurance, I was just saying about insurance, earlier, but it's try and work with, there's some limits that insurers might put on you that you might have to work within, some parameters, which until you maybe get a bit more familiar or talk to some others, you you might then try and work out how to get around those and the activities you can do. But again, within 6 weeks, I didn't necessarily have the time to sort of backwards and forwards on negotiating what we could or couldn't do. And then also look at what other people have done. So to go on other people's open farm Sundays, social medias. I found a hen do party at farms the other day, and they do all these activities. I thought that'd be brilliant. So look what other people do for ideas. And then also I found it quite easy. It was quite good to put a sheep display on. I put a sheep display on at sort of 10:30 and 1:30, and then it gave me a little bit of confidence that people would turn up for a time and also sort of eke people out in the day. So not everybody came for one event. They came for either the 10:30 or the 1:30, and then it made me just feel a bit better that people would turn up at a point, rather than thinking, oh God, is this it? And weather, we couldn't do a lot with weather with a weather plan. So luckily we were okay on the day. It was a bit windy, but we do need to think again. That's a limit to the site that we need to think about what a wet weather plan is and whether the site's appropriate. Thank you, Annabelle. Health and safety. It's just one of those things. We're all doing it. So yeah, it's a site that had no danger points. So we haven't got slurry pits, we haven't got cattle, so we're quite safe there. We haven't got anything that's too high risk. But anything where we didn't want to go, we had to put signs out for no unauthorized access. Make sure your signs are clean for what you already have on the yard, which you sort of become blind to. But it is a really good event to clear up the yard and sort of address everything that you've already got. And then on the day, I just made laminated signs to just stick everywhere. Probably went a little bit over the top, but that is sort of my nature, if you ask my operators. So I'd rather have too many than not enough. And I also took photos of the signs that I know if anything happened, there's proof that there's things out, or if anything came back. High vis, so our operators were high vis anyway, but then the volunteers, we had high vis available. Communication devices like walkie-talkies were charged. We had a plan for how we were going to talk about, what people needed to talk about, or feel free to use the right site. First aid armbands for our first aiders. Didn't have a site sign actually to say the first aid was here, but all the volunteers knew where it was, and we had a first aider sign. So I suppose again that's one of the things in my mind. If someone came over, I'd know where it was, so I need to communicate that better. Access for emergency services, risk assessments. We had some uh, exhibitors that haven't probably got the health and safety limit we like, so I helped them out just to make sure they were up to a level. But again, if they're not going to be at that point, you have to consider whether you can have them on site really. As with any sort of third party. Dogs friendly or not, that's a big thing. It's quite nice to be able to be dog friendly, otherwise they just turn up anyway. So if you can try and have them in your thought processes. And a big thing is that we should have mowed our grass earlier. So not only was the grass a little bit long and a bit of a trip hazard, but also a bit of a tall grass, drying grass sat under an engine. So remember to cut your grass a bit sooner. And then next slide, please. Oh, sorry, just on health safety as well. Lambs, they liked us to have electric fencing, and then they wanted us to have a secondary fencing so that people couldn't touch the electric fencing. But that's also because our hand washing facilities weren't. They were just people didn't want our insurers didn't want people touching livestock. So again, it's just you'll work it out as you go. Thank you, Amber. Publicising, so yeah, Open Farm Sunday website's got so many good resources. It's really useful, and actually it's quite exciting when the box arrives full of all the bits and bobs. We made a little pack for everybody on the day, so it had all these activities that children could take home and learn about. AHDBs, sort of, they have like wheat, barley, and information packs. They were really good for children. Stickers again for the numbers. That's how we kept tally of numbers, how many stickers have gone. And we did a lead up to Open Farm Sunday, sort of the photos, and just kept people up to date with how we were progressing and keep reminding people, because it's not that people won't remember, it's just on the day you think, oh, it's a nice day to go here, and you think, no, don't forget about us. So it's quite a nice, just a lead up. And the word of mouth as well, like we're in a small village, things doesn't take too long to travel, so let it go. And then because we put a lot of these postcards in our local schools, we could see how many people we'd sort of sent them to, and actually it worked out just about right that we had 150 visitors, and we'd probably sent about 100 odd of these postcards to our local little schools. So worked just about right. And then laminated posters I put around the different villages locally, but do remember to pick them up, otherwise it is a littering. So just remember to cover them after the end. Thank you. And then, yeah, I suppose it's just try and enjoy yourself. On the day, I was quite stressed. I spoke to my boss earlier, he said he wasn't. So I think you just got to remember to try and enjoy what you're doing it for. And it's nice to see everybody there. We had 3 times the amount of visitors we expected, but because it was such a big site, it was very spaced out and relaxed, which at sometimes you thought, God, this looks dead. But it's fine. It's year 1. Everyone's enjoying it. It's here, so don't worry too far. Try and mingle with people and see what how they got here or where they heard it from, to understand next year how to sort of get your audience. Open Farm Sunday feedback, you can put a QR code, sign out, and get feedback, which is really useful. And I think it's just important to remember that some people, they can't afford to go too far. They might have any restrictions. That means they can't afford to go out for day trips with the children. And I think it's just really nice to remember that for some people this could be like the best day trip of the the month, of the quarter or the year. So it's just important to remember that whatever happens, people have enjoyed it. It's okay. So yeah, just take the pressure off. That's it. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Annabelle, you're on doing a you now, but you're on silent.
Annabelle, you're muted.
Oh, no, it's you. Sorry. You're still muted.
I know, I'm sorry. I was trying to, anyway, I'm here now. Zoe, thank you so much indeed. Wow, lots to think about there, which is fantastic. Right. So now I will pass over to George and Philippa. So let me just, there we go.
Thank you and good morning. Zoe covered most things, so really there's not much I can add in many ways because the detail was really impressive. I think we are different. For a start, this is organised by a team. So the Marshall Vale Farms Cluster is a group of farms in the Marshall Vale. There's about 15 of us. And so the objective is to move the event round each year. So this is year 3 coming up this year. So we'll be in a different site than we were last year. Location is critical. Last year, yes, we did have a lot of people, but we were half a mile out of a town. So it's very easy. This year we will be further, but we will be closer to bigger towns. So it will come on to publicity in a minute, but its location is everything. And the second thing then is select a team. So we have the cluster. So that gives me 15 farmers, and it gives me their partners, and it gives me their families, and it gives me their workers. And so that leads on to creating your volunteers. Some are pressed, some are not. But also the open day is run in conjunction with the Melpash Agricultural Society, which most of the cluster members are also deeply involved with. And the Melpash Agricultural Society runs a thing called Discover Farming, which is an education initiative to get schools onto farms. And we have our own classroom and so on. So bringing the two together made it comparatively easy to get a good team of volunteers. And I've got over 70 of them. You do need to look after them. That comment was always right. You need to feed them and water them. So that's the background. I think the other thing to bear in mind throughout all of it is that your visitors have a huge amount of innate goodwill. They want to come and enjoy themselves. It's a free day out. They want to learn. So don't get nervous about doing it if it's the first time. People want to learn. In early preparation and thinking, yes, a map is absolutely essential to know what you're going to do. But I think that, yes, the risk assessment, we were fortunate. We've got a brilliant girl who does Copper Hills risk assessment on she's really professional, really detailed, but she knows how to make it so that somebody will not have to plow through 1,000 pages of rubbish. One side of a piece of A4 is all I can ever read, and that's what she does. So for the Open Farm Sunday, that's what she did. And so therefore it's easy to communicate with your volunteers what the key points they have to do and to be aware of.
Insurance.
And the second one is insurance. The NFU do free insurance for farms that do Open Farm Sunday. Talk to your local NFU office. Insurance, it can be a nightmare. We, for example, we accumulate 6 trailers to take people around. And as you imagine, they might vary in their quality, but there are certain things they have to be road legal. And the NFU insurance are quite sticky on that, which is fair enough. My only other point on trailers would be make sure that trailers people can see out of. You're going on a journey. A lot of shoot trailers, for example, have sides you can't see out of, so select your trailer carefully. So that I'll hand over to Philippa, who's going to talk about really the marketing and the timeline, because it's all about promotion and what we do. So what do we do, Philippa?
What do we do? So the timeline I kind of set myself for doing this, early days, get your map done. I did this map last year for the one near Bedminster. I mean, it's not ideal, but it was really good for what we needed. It's very clear about the route, where the parking was. We did a more detailed one about where the loos are, where the hand washing points are. Once you have your map and your list of things, get everything written down, you can then start putting together a kind of a social media page or a a presentation like this. So this was a threefold thing that we gave out to everyone on the day, but also it's what we took round to all the farm shops, we gave to the schools, we took to tourist points, and we distributed over 1,000, I think, didn't we, before the event? And then we had another 800 on the day to give out to everyone, so everyone can see what there is. And some people, it reminds them for the next year as well, which is really helpful. So what I'm doing this month in April is I'm going to start doing, I'm going to write a press release, which will go to our local papers, just so it starts getting in people's heads, because now it's the Easter holidays coming up. People are going to start thinking about the summer and school activities, so they'll want to start thinking about these things now. If you can also talk to local radio stations, but also online listings, like we'll use Visit Dorset. Sometimes they have a free thing you can put up and say activities that are happening next month or in June. So people will look at Visit Dorset or whichever local county site you're using. That's really helpful. But yes, get flyers out to your schools, get them out soon as Easter holidays are done, ideally, because that's when people start giving them to kids to give to their parents. It'll stick on their fridge, and that's where you want it. It remains in people's heads. Social media, I'm going to start. We use our cluster Instagram and Facebook page for advertising this, but then all the other local farmers, Our Farm, Coppet Hill, that has a good following for our camping and glamping, will advertise there as well. And we'll reshare things. We will start doing this month, April, teasers. We'll do behind the scenes. We'll do, so every time we have a meeting, I'll do another thing. Oh, we're getting excited about this year's Open Farm Sunday. And then we'll start doing pictures from last year or leaf pictures. Share the leaf social media is really good. So whenever they post something, share it onto your page as well. In May, we'll do more promotion and engagement. So we'll start, we do big A0, isn't it?
I never remember A0 or A1, but they're quite big.
A1, and we'll get those printed and we'll put them up in relevant areas. The roads going towards there, well, we put up 7 last year, I think. And from the feedback, from last year's feedback, most people said they heard from us from either Facebook, from the Facebook event page. Use Facebook events. It's amazing how far that goes out. But also from our posters as well, because people go, oh, I drive down this road all the time and I saw it was around the corner. So that's really helpful. Yeah, get in touch with local groups, with guides, with the scouts, with gatherings, of community gatherings. That's a really good place to get people talking about it. And then also do, 5 reasons to visit Open Farm Sunday, or here's the food that will be at Open Farm Sunday, or do you want to see the animals that we'll have? Use those for social media content, and you'll easily come up with a post a week, if not more. Yeah, that's my kind of social media strategy and push for it. Yeah, get everyone to share pictures on the day. Use a hashtag. Use, what do we use? Hashtag Marshwood Cluster Open Farm Sunday or something like that. Pick a hashtag, advertise that. People will start sharing. Get them to send them to you as well, so you have pictures for next year. You don't have to be the designated photographer. Get your public to do that for you. And get someone with a drone, actually, that's really helpful.
Yeah, that first picture was used by a friendly drone.
Yeah.
I think just on the trailers, since we're looking at this picture, it's really important to have your good tractor driver on the front, and a tractor is important. Children particularly want a tractor ride. They do not want a Land Rover or a van. They want a tractor. So that's important. And the second one is then make sure you've got a really good guide on the trailer who knows what they're going to see and can talk not just about what they're seeing, but other things as well. So they can talk about the issues. And this year is going to be, I think, really, there'll be a lot of farming issues that people want to know about. They hear a lot in the press, but they want to actually talk to a farmer and understand what they are. So the person on your trailer is a key person. The couple other things, the food, we had burger vans or whatever come in, and we try and make it all local food, and we just got it slightly wrong last year. It's slightly too expensive. I think Zoe, you touched on the fact that people can't necessarily afford to have a day out, so a free day out is brilliant. So there'll be the same again this year with us, but we're also trying to offer a lower cost offering because I think that's important.
Yeah, well, have a picnic area or seating area. We're bringing a whole load of picnic tables. So if people do want to bring their own food, especially if they've got little children, then they'll want to bring their own picnic sets. Somewhere for them to have that place to sit down. We didn't have enough last year. But yes, also a kind of, we'll still have our lovely luxury game truck, and we'll have our vegetarian game food truck, but we're also going to have a cheaper burger option as well.
And just on cost and the cost of running it, and because the cluster doesn't necessarily have much money, but Melbourne Agricultural Society was able to support us, so they covered the cost of the portaloos. You're quite right, you have to have sufficient of those, and also they covered the cost of hiring. We have first aiders. We have 2 first aiders for the day. And I think if you're going up to the sort of numbers we were, you've got to have first aiders on site. And so yes, there's some costs. So I expect the whole thing costs us about £2,000 in total, include the printing. So I think in summary, plan carefully, get lots of volunteers, and be slightly I like logistics. This is fun. I've always enjoyed it, so that helps. And it tends to, Zoe, I have the same mistake as you. It tends to be in my head, but never mind. It's good, keeps me young. Use the Leaf facilities. If you go onto the Leaf website, there's, we print out all the sort of rubbishy posters. What's this one that says the Leaf? That says exit, but there's others that sort of
hand washing, parking,
footpath. So those are really useful. So you don't have to go and get them printed. You just laminate them. Laminators are. And
the name badges, the Leaf name badges as well. Those are really helpful because.
Well, there would be if you can get enough.
Yeah,
but it's Leaf is so tight. Leaf, I want 70, please, not 3.
But it helps because all the parking people will wear the high-vis jackets. But all the other helpers that are the 70, whether it's young farmers or whoever it may be, give them a badge and make it up. We end up making our own badge out of yogurt pots and things like that, yogurt pot lids. Give them a badge so if someone knows, it looks like they're a member of the team and people know who they can talk to.
Yeah, that's good. And yes, there's a point on trailers. We had 6. You never have enough. But actually, it's amazing. We have a long queue all day to go on the trailers, and people are very happy to stand in the queue and wait, and they can see what's going on. So, first year I used to get wound up about it, but last year I didn't. You just let it happen, and if people think the queue's too long, they'll go and do other things in the waiting area, and you can see the picture there. It was in front of a big corn facility. And that then allowed us to just protect ourselves against the weather, because those corn sheds were used. We put the Discover Farming activities, and I should say about Discover Farming, everything has to be interactive. So it's not a case of children looking at banners, not interested in that. They've got to actually grind wheat, or they've got to milk a cow. They've got to do things. And so it was really... It was
a toy cow. They weren't milking an actual cow. It was a toy cow.
Oh,
also birthing a toy cow.
Yeah. They love birthing a cow. It's great. So those are things that are really easy to set up. They take a bit of time, but again, because it was a corn shed, we just could put it undercover, which was sense. So I think we
and thank them afterwards.
Oh, thank you. Love your volunteers. I mean, thank the visitors, and we did have a welcome desk with a clicker. But again, so when people come, they're welcome desk. The people there explain what there is, what's going on, what they can do, and how they can go in different directions. So that was important. But again, on the way out, they go past the welcome desk. The welcome desk then gives them an exit survey and talks to them and finds out how it went, and get any feedback, any improvements you can make, because you always get things wrong. but it doesn't matter getting it wrong as long as you do it with a smile on your face. That was important. So thank the visitors for coming, but thank your volunteers. They are absolutely essential. They have to enjoy the day and give them a beer or a Coca-Cola at the end of the day, and a burger if you're lucky. That'll do.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let me just, here we go. Right. So, and the last message is, those have been 2 fantastic presentations, 2 completely different events. I hope that people aren't overwhelmed by what you've just heard, because lots of fabulous ideas. And at the end of the day, if you're doing your first Open Farm Sunday event, don't forget you can just keep it simple with a simple farm walk. If that's the first time you're inviting the public onto your farm, don't feel overwhelmed at all. So that's just amazing. And oh yeah, we've got our program of Zooms that you're all aware of, some fantastic case studies on all of them. And so that's great. And a big thank you. Right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and it's now going to be an opportunity for everybody. And this is if I can, I need to move that. There we go. So, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions for anybody? Do we have any questions in the chat? Or would anyone like to just ask a question? If you come off mute, you are very welcome to.
I have a quick question, Annabelle. I
Right.
have to it in the chat. But when do you both start planning your Open Farm Sunday events?
Yes.
Well, sorry, George, want to go?
Yes, it's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
When we get round to it. We've started.
Started in November.
We
I
started
think,
in November, we
pre-Christmas.
think. But it's going to rank up in a minute, but it's been pretty laid back up to now.
And then obviously last year I only had 6 weeks, but this year I've tried to be a little bit more. I've sorted it before spring drilling, but I am struggling with volunteers, so then it's now going to limit my, which I had really thought, well, that's probably it for this year, but now actually I need to just find a smaller one. I don't need to be as big maybe, so I need to do something, but whereas I had sort of thought, oh no, that's it, it's off, because I haven't got the volunteers, but actually I have got enough to do something smaller, like you say, just a fun walk. So yeah, so I need to now curveball slightly.
Sorry, do you use young farmers?
No, again, that's something else, but again, because I was lastminutes.com last year, but yeah, young farmers are always a good one to target, aren't they, for helping out?
Zoe, do you have a local agricultural society that you can involve?
Yes, potentially. Yes, which now the deadline for people to get back to me was Friday, so now I am going to have to look into those other avenues to see where we're at really. So that's a bit of a shame for us this year. But is it? Because it might be a nice smaller event, so it's not the end of the world, whereas Friday it was.
So there's a question in the chat about charging. Have either of you? No, but George, you've got the support from the local agricultural society there from the financial perspective, haven't you? And Zoe, your event was free, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, we were happy to provide everything there.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I think it's terribly important that it is free. The suggestion has come
Yeah.
that we haven't discussed or made a decision on this year, but the suggestion is that we put a box on the exit for donations to the Farming Community Network, which might be a really good idea because we do get people say, "Oh, we thought we'd pay," and I think it's really important that we don't charge. I think that's part of it. But
I agree with that. Yeah.
it's not a bad idea. We haven't finalized that one.
It was the feedback form. So we did print out a lot of feedback forms last year, which we tried to get back as many as we could. Some people thought the box to put them in was the bin, and anyway, but the ones that we didn't get back, it was, sorry, my dog is being a pain. It was really useful because a lot of people did say, I'm surprised you're not supporting a charity here, or but that's where we got the information about the food, so we were able to amend the kind of what we're doing food wise. But I mean, don't be put down. I for a good day, I was feeling a bit disheartened by the feedback, because a lot of it was the food was too expensive, or there weren't enough trailers. Actually, that was the biggest one. There weren't enough trailers. But don't get disheartened by it. Just, yeah, we learned from it. But yeah, the charity thing was something that actually came up quite a lot. So it takes no effort to put a charity box out.
One thing yes, sorry, can I just say one top tip on the charity thing is not everybody carries cash these days. So do think about that. And we've had feedback before from Brixie's farm in Hampshire, and they actually set up their own, you can get a free QR code off the internet, and they put up posters with a QR code saying, we're raising money for this charity. If you've enjoyed your day, please donate. They saw a lot of people taking photographs of the QR code. Not many people donated on the day, but within the sort of week, 10 days afterwards, they had a few £100 donated. So so that's an alternative, or something to do as well as a charity box. And if people do charge, we do have, I'd say 90% of our events are free, but some people do want to charge. They charge sort of £3, £4, £5 for an adult potentially. Some people will say that they're asking for donations to charity, and they have incurred some costs as part of the event, such as hiring the portaloos, and they will take the costs out of the money that's donated and then give the remainder of the money to a certain charity. If you're going to do that, you have to be very clear in your communication, but you can do that.
Financially, you could also get, I think I was actually on a Leaf Zoom earlier this year where they were talking about getting the loos sponsored by the local water company. So there are other ways to get that financial assistance, but I thought that was a particularly genius one, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Andy Basin in his one. Yeah, he gets his toilets supported. He asks his feed merchant, different people, his water company, they actually, you know, sponsor the toilets. So do think of that.
Can I just ask a quick question? So sorry, it's Amelia Greenway here. My camera's playing up today. It was just in regard to the feedback you received for having potentially overpriced food. I'm in a debate at the moment about whether to hand over the barbecue to a charity and they take it all and I just sell them my burgers and sausages and they will definitely make money on that, or whether I should do the barbecue myself, because obviously it's a lot of time to go into preparing this and the thought of getting some money from a barbecue is great. When you're saying overpriced food, what are you meaning and what were you selling, just for context? Because I'm also considering, do I just get a food van in because they've got all the catering, you know, regulation certificates?
Yeah, it's such a tricky one, because ideally we'd love to do our own barbecue and put our own sausages on it, and you know, that'd be simple, but it's very time consuming and it's just not something that we had the time to do ourselves. So there are so many great small food businesses around here. So the Game Truck is a food business that does literary festivals and food markets and things like that, and they sell pheasant goujons and things like that. Anyway, absolutely delicious stuff. So we said, come up. What they do is, it's, you know, we don't pay for them to be there. They get all the money from it, and they give us a small donation at the end from whatever takings they made from it. So we have a little bit of money back, and that actually went back to charity, didn't it? The money that we got back from the food trucks. But that was quite expensive food. Then we had the burger people, but that was still quite expensive, but it was really good burgers, amazing burgers. They were so
when you're saying expensive, what do you remember? Was it roughly like
the burger was probably about £8, no more than that actually, I would say probably a bit more. By the time you had the chips, it was probably about £10. The pheasant was probably about £9 for a dish. Giles' stuff is about £7 for a dish. So what we're doing this year is someone's donated a cow, and we're going to do kind of pulled cow burgers, which I think we're going to try and do under £5 for a burger of pulled cow. And I think that's the key thing. It's that under £5 mark, people seem much happier to pay for that.
That's great. Thank you for letting me know. I was going to go in at £5 a burger. I don't have any chips as a side for the simple reason I thought that's whole money. I've got card machines, but I thought if you've got a £5 cash, we're adding it up. My card machine breaks. I'm rubbish at maths. £5 a burger. You want 10? Okay, 10. Just because I'm so simple.
It's when you start adding it up, if you start looking at a family of 4 and that's 4 burgers, you know, then you've got to start thinking, well, is that a lot of money for one family to pay for their food? So that's the way we're trying to look at it.
No, I agree. That's great.
You were mentioning about
sorry.
certificates. I was going to say, you're mentioning about certificates there. And in actual fact, if this is a one-off event for charity and free, you do not need to have the catering certification, even though you can do that online for something like £30–40. But if it's a one-off event and this isn't regular, you do not need to have any food hygiene certificate, but you do need to prove that you've looked into it. There's a link through to the Food Standards Agency. They have 10 little 1-minute videos. And if you make sure that anyone who's handling food has watched those videos, record the date and time that they did it, get confirmation that people have watched it, and they are really informative, and you can then offer the food without needing that food hygiene certificate.
Great. Thank you for letting me know.
I think also, I'm not sure, I've only just met George, but I feel like he might roll his eyes again, but the insurers for us were funny about money exchanging. That meant something different. I can't quite remember, but when you tell your insurers about what you're doing, or if you look into the NFU, I've not looked into that one, but something about money exchange changed what we were doing. So we have our own lamb, and we were happy to pay for the whole food, so the food is all free, but we don't offer alternatives like vegetarian options, so it's lamb or nothing for us, which we're happy with. So but there was some sort of money exchange thing that maybe just look into. I don't know if you guys on a bigger scale have got anything, or it's just us again.
that never featured, and I have no intention of raising the subject.
No, that's fine. So yeah.
But the food was the only money exchange that was, and they were individual companies doing it.
Yeah.
So the burger, the cow burger,
we did ice creams. We bought a local ice cream maker called Babu, who does awesome stuff. The profit on ice cream is obscene, but that's not public.
Yeah,
but I'm writing that down.
But we sell ice creams and don't make a clean profit. You can sell them quite reasonably.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I think we could keep chatting for another hour, couldn't we? But we are well over our time. But that's been a really, really useful conversation. Thank you very much for everyone's contributions. That's brilliant. So we've still got more webinars coming up, one of them on different activities, and one of them specifically on health and safety as well. So yeah, lots more to come. And thank you very much indeed. And remember, register your event, please, as soon as possible. And then you'll start receiving help and support from the team at Leaf. So thank you so much. Thank you, George. Thank you, Philippa. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Jess, who keeps Open Farm Sunday going behind the scenes. And to everyone who takes part, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.